Never doubt that a small group of committed, thoughtful people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Margaret Mead.
Often, people attempt to live their lives backwards. They try to have more things or more money in order to do more of what they want so they will be happier. The way it really works is the reverse. You must first be who you really are, then do what you need to do in order to have what you want. Margaret Young. Good morning, I'm Denise Rathman. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the speaker to you today from the land that is the traditional territory of the indigenous Iowa people. Whenever you hear a land acknowledgement, please consider making a donation to support indigenous organizations or indigenous-led grassroots change movements and campaigns. Encourage others to do the same. If you are joining us on Zoom, please keep your microphones muted during the entire service. That even means if you think you're home alone and it's quiet, because sometimes people get feedback. So please, everybody on Zoom, we're glad you're here, but please mute your microphones now. Oh, and for the rest of you, turn off your cell phones. How about that? After the service, please join us in the gathering area for refreshments and conversation.
Denise is a lot taller than me. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. I'm Eileen Jackson. My pronouns are she, her. No matter who you are or where you come from, you're welcome here, whether or not you live in Des Moines or if you've ever physically been at First Unitarian. Whoever you are, we hope that you are here to find thoughts that challenge you, welcome which invites you into community, and people to accompany you as you journey. Our gathering song this morning is number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. The words will be on the screen. And as Denise said, if you're joining us on Zoom, please keep your mics muted and sing along.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
And now I'd like to invite Catherine Sutton from Coming of Age to give a spotlight on that particular program.
Good morning. My name is Catherine Sutton. My pronouns are she, her. I'm one of the facilitators for Coming of Age, along with Sally Buckholt and Mark Metz. Coming of Age is a program welcome to 8th and 9th graders that provides a free space for youth to explore their personal beliefs, values, and a vision for the type of human being they wish to become as they transition from childhood into adulthood. I have exciting news from the team. Youth, their families, and adults from the congregation who wish to be mentors for the program are invited to a potluck picnic at Easter Lake for games, fun, and hanging out. This is for our youth to get to know one another before the program kicks off in September. The Coming of Age picnic will be on Friday, August 26th, starting at 5 p.m. at Easter Lake, Shelter 1 in Des Moines. I'll repeat that. The picnic will be on Friday, August 26th, starting at 5 p.m. at Easter Lake in Shelter 1 in Des Moines. So reach out to us, RSVP, for information at coa@ucdsm.org. That's coa@ucdsm.org. Feel free to also see me after service in the gathering area. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And I had said that I might try to work coming of age into my sermon. That didn't happen. So I'll give a little editorial about it because I'm the sermonizer this morning. So I guess I get to do that. And I have been a mentor for coming of age for a few years now. And I really find it super easy to do. As a little preview to my sermon, I would say that's an atomic habit for me because I can schedule my Wednesdays off and I can be a part of coming of age. So for those of you who have kids in 8th or 9th grade, I'd highly encourage you to get them involved if you're so inclined. But for those of you who don't, think about becoming a mentor because the facilitators really make it easy for mentors. It's a very, very easy lift. Now on to the more financial matters. If you pick the right small behavior and sequence it right, then you won't have to motivate yourself to have it grow. It will happen naturally, like a good seed planted in a good spot. That's BJ Fogg. This type of habit can happen with financial habits as well, including making donations to your church community. For those of you who are joining us on Zoom, you will find a link in the chat. Half of our plate offering goes to our social justice programs here in our church, and the other half goes to the outside community organizations that we partner with. Thank you.
Our meditation this morning is from Nancy Reed McKee. Sit and rest for a minute. Take several deep breaths in and out again, calling your attention to this space. Attention. Pay attention. Pay attention to where you are right now. I mean, where you are. Where you are and where you are. You are here in this community, in this sanctuary, in this state in this country, on this beautiful blue planet, whirling through this tailspin of a galaxy. You are unique. You are made of cells and hormones. You are a mix of thoughts, emotions, values. You are the inheritors of your parents' and ancestors' dreamings. You are part of the human inhabitants of this earth. You are. You exist. You are breathing. You are still. You are connected. You are present. You have a holy spark inside of you. You are here now. You are paying attention. Blessed be.
A church is not the building, but a community. As a community of human hands and human hearts, we come together to share our laughter and our tears, and to bear witness and to minister to one another as we struggle with this life's sorrows and celebrate life's joys. May we hold in our thoughts and our prayers this week. Longtime member Roger Evans died peacefully Saturday morning, August 6th, at Legacy Point Independent Living Skilled Care in Waukee. A service will be held at a later date. His wife, Jean, is currently at Mercy West dealing with her own health issues. Please contact Pastoral Care for information on where to send cards and condolences. Updates will follow. Jennifer L Galluzzo, 52, passed away August 4th at Kavanaugh House in Des Moines. A service will be held at a later date. Jennifer's request, in lieu of flowers, is that donations be directed to the charities near and dear to her heart. Planned Parenthood, A. Hines 57 Pet Rescue, and Kavanaugh House, which is a part of it, the Every Step movement, or a charity of your choice. Leanne Beck writes, Sherwin and I are celebrating our 40th anniversary on Sunday, August 7th. We got married at Simpson College in Indianola. Let us now share the names of anyone we know who could use some special care and attention. As we type their names into the chat or speak them aloud, may the love of this community hold them. May the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world. May the work of our hands and hearts support, aid, and comfort all those who hunger or thirst for food or water, justice or freedom. May we never look away when we are needed. May those who are grieving be comforted. May those who are tired find rest. May the broken places be healed. May those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant. Now, together, we light 3 candles, one for the joys and sorrows we have shared, one for the names we have written, and one last candle for all the joys and all of the sorrows which are deeply held, but remain unspoken here today.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul.
My Commitments to Myself by Laura Mancuso. I take care of myself first because I am deserving of exquisite care. I take care of myself to maintain the capacity to help others. I move and I stretch my body every day. I spend time in nature, attuning my senses to the earth's wisdom. I ration my daily exposure to the news. Okay, let's be honest, I don't really do that. Something to work on, I guess. I identify and access credible sources of information. I protect myself from becoming overwhelmed by information about the pandemic. I pace myself. I sit with the reality of uncertainty and impermanence and allow it to temper my desire for control. I listen without judgment to others' reactions, which may be different from mine. I forgive myself and others when stress brings out our shadow selves. I feel fear fully when I am fearful. I experience sadness fully when I am sad. I allow anger fully when I am angry. I relish joy fully when I am joyful. I seek out healthy pleasures and indulge in them without guilt. I remind myself that feelings are transient states that move through me. They do not last, and they do not define me, nor do they my thoughts. I balance my drive for self-improvement with compassionate acceptance of myself as I am right now. I initiate contact with loved ones to let them know I hold them in my heart. I seek out, with increased sensitivity, those who are the most vulnerable. If possible, I share my resources with those who need help to survive. When possible, I move away from people, situations, and experiences that do not serve my highest good. I strengthen my connection to my sources of spiritual strength so that I continue to be replenished. I acknowledge the nearness of death as a key motivator for living a full life. I pray for the suffering of all of those beings to cease. I grieve my losses and celebrate my successes. I remain open to saying new ways of being, surprising sources of joy, and unanticipated discoveries every day. And now we'll have some special music via video.
The magical yet the magic.
There's a dark and a troubled side of life. There's a bright and a sunny side too. Though we meet with the darkness and strife, the sunny side we also may view. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every ways if we keep on the sunny side of life. The storm and its fury broke today, crushing hopes that we cherish so dear. Clouds and storms will in time pass away. The sun again will shine bright and clear. So keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day. It will brighten all our ways if we keep on the sunny side of life. Let us greet with a song of hope each day. Though the moment be cloudy or fair, let us trust in each other always and keep everyone in our care. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day. It will brighten all our ways if we keep on the sunny side of life. Just keep on the sunny side of life.
Our second reading this morning is Three Things by Jan Tadeo. The storm outside echoes the storm raging within my soul. So many people in need, so much pain, so much grief. Too many causes and campaigns fill my mailbox, sap my energy, beg for my money. 3 things I must do. Only 3 things? You've got to be kidding. Which 3 do I choose? Books and letters, magnets and movies implore me to dance as if no one's watching. Learn 7 habits and make 4 agreements and give generously and vote often and express myself. Yet hundreds, thousands, millions live with hunger and thirst in poverty, enduring violence and disease. Did Mother Teresa, Martin, and Gandhi cry out with despair from the darkness of overwhelm? What 3 things did they choose? 3 things. 3 things we must do. Is it to act in kindness, serve justice, love our God or your neighbor, or even love yourself? But where do I start? So much thoughtlessness, hatred, and fear. Too little justice, too much selfishness. Where is God? Who is my neighbor? 3 things, 7 principles, 10 commandments, 12 steps, all number of things that speak to us, and yet we must choose. We must choose to do something. So 3 things may be the right number, not too few, not too many, but which 3 things shall I choose? Will you? Which 3 things will you do? Here's an adage that I've always liked. Don't just do something, stand there. Stand in the surf, or sit on a rock, or lay your body against the earthy loam and be quiet, very quiet. Do you hear it? That still small voice, the echo of your soul reverberating with the call of your own true self to emerge. Then the calm within becomes the calm without. The storm blows over, the sun recovers its position of strength, and that glorious symbol of hope and unity emerges across the sky. At the end of this rainbow, a treasure, the 3 things that you must do. Go outside of yourself and know what needs of the world. Go within yourself and discover your life-given gifts. Then arch yourself like a rainbow bridge between the two and create a more beautiful world. Please join us in singing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of love, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the wind, giving light the shape of justice. Youth pull me close, wings let me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Before I forget, thank you, Sarah Chang, for being our song leader, and for Bruce Martin. Bruce, I hope you're really making good of your health, because you must. I have to predecease Bruce so he can play at my funeral. Notice I said that after he got back behind the curtain. Okay. From the preface of the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. Atomic. Number one, an extremely small amount of a thing, the single incredible unit of a larger system. Number two, the source of immense energy or power. Habit. Oh, actually, they have it, habit. Number one, a routine or practice performed regularly, an automatic response to a specific situation. The subtitle of the book is Tiny Changes, Remarkable Results, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. You may think this sounds like a review of a self-help book rather than a sermon, or perhaps a sermon on self-help. Yes, in a way, particularly for those of you who may be visiting, it is. But for those of you who are regular or may become regular attendees and members of this congregation, it is a call to action. For anyone who may not know, this church is at a crossroads. We are working our way out of a pandemic. Our settled minister of nearly 3 years has departed, and we will be operating under the guidance of a transitional contract minister for the next year. In Friday's edition of the church's e-newsletter, Intercom Weekly, Reverend Victoria Safford tells us, "My work this year is different, to help you and your elected leaders prepare for your church's bright future, sometimes by telling the stories of your recent past, grieving losses, healing hurt, celebrating milestones and achievements, and also by dreaming together of what's possible and needed now as you move forward." Let me repeat that last phrase. By dreaming together of what's possible and needed now as you move forward. Okay, silent poll. No need to out yourself here where you use. This isn't a confessional booth. But here's the question. How many of you are groaning at the idea of having to do more dreaming together of what's possible? Earlier this summer, Gene McCracken, who just raised his hands for those of you who aren't sitting behind him, reminded those of us who belong to First Unitarian Church of Des Moines Facebook group that in 2018, the congregation participated in a comprehensive survey. Meg Notch, another longtime member, replied, "Over the years, I feel like I've been endlessly asked what I want from church, from programming, from staff, especially when Reverend Jen," she was an interim minister for us several years ago, was here. "We had stakeholder meetings over and over. Are those notes from that time period? Are there notes from that time period? I remember pouring my heart and soul into those conversations. While I certainly appreciate and imagine that others can relate to Meg's sentiments, I believe that this point in time in our church life is quite different than it was 4 years ago. During a keynote presentation, during a meeting for my work organization, a futurist talked about this being a post-normal era. Well, I would argue that post-normal isn't a very apt descriptor for those who suffered from healthcare, racial, economic, and other disparities prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. I do agree that this is a new era, and that indicates that revisiting our congregational strategic planning documents, goals, and priorities is warranted. However, I do think that our shared values remain the same, and while the outcome of any dreaming together of what's possible and needed now may, in the end, produce a similar product to what we came up with in 2018, it's worth taking a look at what the Board of Trustees, President Reba Eagles, calls our future goals and specific priorities. In the July 8th board minutes, she describes how we will be examining who we are as a congregation and who have we been in our history, and who we are now, and who do we want to be together in the months and the years to come. But all of this planning, either from 2018 or in the upcoming church year, will be for naught if we don't act to implement those goals and priorities. And this is where atomic habits come in. Author James Clear believes that the biggest barrier to positive change at any level, individual, team, I would call our congregation a team, society, is identity conflict. Good habits make rational sense, but if they conflict with your identity, you will fail to put them into action. So, more simply put, if you engage in habits that don't support your goals, you are not going to meet your goals. Okay, you use silent confession, poll number 2. How many of you do this? Engage in habits that don't support your goals, personal or otherwise. Okay. Clear states, if you are having trouble changing your habits, the problem isn't you. The problem is your system. Bad habits repeat themselves again and again, not because you don't want to change, but because you have the wrong systems for change. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Habits are like the atoms of our lives. Each one is a fundamental unit that contributes to your overall improvement. At first, these tiny routines seem insignificant, but soon they build on each other and fuel bigger wins that multiply to a degree that far outweighs the cost of their initial investment. They are both small and mighty. This is the meaning of the phrase atomic habits, a regular practice or routine that is not only small and easy to do, but also the source of incredible power, a component of the system of compound growth. So basically, in a team context, we can have all the congregational goals we want, but if we don't behave in ways that support those goals, then we won't achieve our goals to become the congregation that we want to be, or even the congregation that we see ourselves as now. Clear suggests this process. Number 1, decide the type of person you want to be. And then number 2, prove it to yourself with small wins. He goes on, work backwards from the results you want to the type of person who would get those results. Ask yourself, who is the type of person that could lose 40 pounds? Who is the type of person who could learn a new language, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that this same process would serve us well as a congregation. First, we determine the type of congregation that we want to be, and then we prove it to ourselves with small wins. We have some work to do over the next several months to check in with ourselves about the type of congregation that we want to be. But as I stated earlier, I think we can all take a pretty good guess at what that might look like. But if we don't prove it to ourselves with small wins, then all the strategic and strategic planning and goal setting will go to waste. In the meantime, as we discern as a congregation what our church will look like in this new era, we can, as individuals, work to become the individual congregants that we want to be, and therefore support the congregation that we want. So what type of congregant do I want to be? And then how do I prove that to myself with small wins? Here are a couple of examples of the type of congregant that I want to be. In fact, I'm going to name 3, tying in with what Eileen's reading said. And I believe that these will support our group endeavors to be the type of congregation that we want to be. All right, thing or habit number 1, I am a well-informed and engaged member of this congregation. So actually, that's the type of individual I want to be. The atomic habit that I can use to support that is read communications. That's easy, it's little, it's small. In the past, I've been a faithful reader of our weekly communications, or the Intercom Weekly. It kept me up to date on what is going on with the church. I made a point to open up my email each Friday to read the communication missive. But somewhere along the way, I stopped. Probably around the same time I kind of checked out on reading personal email in general. I tend to rely on Facebook, but Meta's algorithms aren't what they used to be. So I miss out on a lot, including church activities. I wouldn't have even made it to the potluck supper to meet Reverend Safford if I hadn't learned of it at a church event the evening before. As I was working on this sermon, I read some of the more recent minutes from the Board of Trustees meetings to get up to date. Fern Stewart, our board secretary, names the documents UUBOT. I read that as UBOT. UBOT meeting minutes, and adds a date, and that sort of cracks me up. I now think of the Board of Trustee minutes as the UUBOT, as if the UUBOT is the title of a newsletter that focuses on church governance. Okay, UU silent confession number 3. How many of you read the UUBOT on a regular basis? There's a few folks. Raise your hands, or if you don't, like I said, this isn't really a confession, but if it makes you feel better, go right ahead. And like I said, I did not until literally about 2 weeks ago, when maybe it was more like last weekend when I was working on this sermon. Before I begin to share some nuggets some of you may have missed, I would like to ask Emily Petty and Hannah Notch to stand. Are they both here? Emily and Hannah, please stand if you are able. All right, there they are in the back. Oh, wait, folks. It's getting better. From the June 29th edition of the UUBOT, Alice Stewart, our Director of Finance and Administration, said she recognized staff beginning with Emily for cleaning the church for the month of June, and a thank you to church members volunteering the past week. Emily and Hannah took over the PowerPoint order of service for Sundays, replaced the sound system for Zoom meetings, provided tech support at the annual meeting, transferred all Zoom links after Reverend Amy's departure, which involved completely redoing, and then communicated this to everyone, supported additional technological and logistical meetings and forums due to ministerial transitions. Is Teresa Miller here today? Teresa Miller, would you please stand? Because this one is so awesome and it involves you. And Emily, Hannah, and Teresa rescued 13 feral cats from the church grounds. No, it was only 6. Well, the minutes said 13, so I guess somebody needs to correct those when they get approved. But that's still a lot of feral cats. You guys go ahead and sit down. For the record, Emily's official title, according to the church website, is Communications Coordinator, and Hannah's is Social Media and Executive Support Specialist. I hope that Alice has inserted the phrase other duties as assigned into their job descriptions. But thank you to both of you. I don't know how many of you realize that right now, we literally have 4 people running this place. That includes Reverend Safford, who isn't even really, I don't think, officially starts until the 17th, if I remember correctly. We do have a new hire coming on. I learned that because I read the weekly intercom, but Emily and Hannah have really stepped up to the plate, and so have a lot of volunteers. So I just want to thank everybody for that. Yes, thank you. Additional nuggets. In reviewing the reports and analysis for the fiscal year end, the following items were over the budgeted amount. Not surprisingly, technology due to the pandemic needs and pest control needs were over budget due to a beaver infestation. Okay, you use silent confession number 4. This one is really more of a poll, so feel free to raise your hands. Who's surprised that we had a beaver infestation? Not a lot of people. And I'm not terribly surprised due to the lovely grounds on which this church is located. But I have to admit, I never thought about how that might adversely and unexpectedly affect the church budget. Other nuggets. Pledge income at that point was slightly more than budgeted, as was total income. There were expenses that came under budget. Total compensation for all staff is well under 100%. But maybe that's because we haven't had a paid director of membership for several months. Base formation under 50% due to pandemic, most likely, Alice notes. The good news, the year-end finalization is looking good and we may be within or under budget for the fiscal year. But friends, please don't get complacent due to this report. This place isn't run for free. As the executive director of a statewide membership organization, I understand the concept of running a tight ship on a small budget. But a tight ship on a small budget very often translates into less than optimal member services. I wouldn't have known hardly any of that if I had not been reading those weekly communications and the UU bot. But this leads me to what kind of a member of First Unitarian do I want to be, part 2, or identity 2, or thing 2, depending on whose framework you're following. So identity 2, I am a member of this congregation in good standing who supports the organization financially. Atomic number 2 to support this identity. Making a financial contribution to this congregation within my financial needs on my means, on a regular basis. UU true confession number 5. There is no need to raise your hands on this. This one is simply for self-reflection. Do you have a financial pledge on record with the church for the 2022-2023 fiscal year? I cannot raise my hand. Even though I know that when congregants don't pledge, it is very hard to create a realistic church budget, making it very difficult to plan for our future. It is clear that this church, when moved, can raise some serious money. We just finished up a capital campaign for our new kitchen in amazingly short order. I imagine that much of that was one-time gifts, or at least one-time transactions. And those can be easier for somebody like me. I simply wrote a check and mailed it in the office. Yes, I still write checks, and yes, I still use the mail. I did that even before the congregational vote, which was probably a little foolhardy, but that's what I did. It turned out well. But for whatever reason, I am just not very good at making regular financial commitment to this or any church. I've always been that way. I hesitate to sign a pledge because I know my history of making good on pledges is poor, very poor. Because of this history, I don't want anyone to count on my pledge as they draft the budget. But intellectually, I know how much easier it would be for the congregation to create realistic plans if we had a better sense of what the church's income would be in the upcoming fiscal year. This is something that I'm going to have to contemplate for a bit longer. But James Clear points out that automating good habits can be particularly useful for behaviors that happen too infrequently to become habitual. Things you do monthly or yearly, like rebalancing your investment portfolio or paying your pledge to the church. They're never repeated frequently enough to become a habit, so they benefit in particular from technology remembering to do them for you. There is all sorts of technology that I could use to help me do this, but I am terribly old-fashioned when it comes to money and technology, so I'm going to need to come up with a different way to automate my giving. But it's something that I have decided I'm going to do. Identity or thing number 3. What kind of a member do I want to be? As in, in regards to coffee hour. I am the type of person who uses coffee hour as a way to connect with new people. True confession, self-reflection question number 6. How likely are you to go up to someone you don't know during coffee hour and introduce yourself? I am horrible about this. And I'm not really an introvert. I am an introvert, but not in that way. So Shelley Kaldenberg, who I see is in the audience, and just full disclosure, Shelley Kaldenberg and I have known each other since kindergarten. So if you see us catching up with each other during coffee hour instead of talking to new members, you know why. She and I discussed this dilemma just a few weeks ago. We both tend to, 1, talk to the people we already know because we want to catch up, or 2, conduct church business with those who are there so we can check off a few things from our to-do list. We don't always engage with new people in the way we know we should and the way we know we would want to be engaged. I find approaching new folks particularly daunting in the era of face masks. I can't read their faces, so I don't feel confident about whether or not they want to be approached. This is particularly difficult as a Unitarian Universalist, I think. I don't want to come across too strong. Being a UU is different than being, for example, a Christian. I am not afraid for the souls of the folks who don't come back, but I do want our congregation to grow. My hunch is that there are plenty of folks out there like me, seeking a community of mostly like-minded folks with shared values, a safe place to learn, grow, debate, discuss. And chances are excellent that this describes new to me people at coffee hour. I need to develop a new atomic habit, one of getting out of my comfort zone and approaching new folks. It's easy enough right now, reintroducing oneself to people who I might have met 2.5 years ago prior to the pandemic. And that doesn't seem like a terrible mistake to make. Actually, face masks are a good excuse. You can legitimately claim that you didn't recognize somebody. And so I present to you atomic habit number 3 for congregational life. I will greet at least one person who I don't know at coffee hour each Sunday. So atomic habits, they're small, they're tiny, they're easy. I'm happy to report that I am back in the habit of reading the weekly intercom, partially due to my work on this sermon, partially due to the interesting tidbits I gleaned while reading. James Clear would understand. He believes that a behavior must be rewarding in order for it to become a habit. I've taken to reading the UU bot. Learning about feral cat relocation and beaver infestations are clearly more rewarding to me than I ever would have predicted. But more importantly, I have a better understanding of what is going on in our beloved community. For example, I learned of Reverend Safford's paradigm for our upcoming year together by reading this Friday's edition of the Intercom Weekly. My best bet is that my new atomic habits of staying informed and engaged, supporting our church financially and regularly, and warmly greeting new to me faces will very likely fit right in with any strategic plan, congregational goal, or priority that we might come up with over the next year. I can always tweak my personal congregational life habits to ensure that they help me help the congregation become the type of community that we want to be. Our opening hymn was very purposely chosen. It's partially a habit. I like that song, and I think every time I do the sermon that we sing that song. But you may have noted in verse 4 the phrase, "Don't be afraid of some change." Don't be afraid of some change, my fellow congregants of First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. There is no doubt that we will go through some changes in the next 12 months. Perhaps the changes will be atomic, small habits, and simply help us to come closer to being the congregation that we already know we want to be. And we can do that by changing our habits and then come closer to achieving the goals we have set in the past. Or perhaps in this era, post-COVID and otherwise, we will determine that significant change is needed as we work to refine new goals and accomplish specific priorities and implement them with atomic habits. Just keep in mind that every action you take as a member of this community is a vote for the type of community you wish it to become. Thank you. Faith is a commitment to live as if certain things are true and thereby help to make them so. Faith is a commitment to live as if life is a wondrous mystery, as if life is good, as if life is divine, as if we are responsible for the well-being of those around us. That's Reverend Galen Gowenrich. And now we will sing our closing song. This is another habit of mine. Let It Be a Dance. Number 311. Number 311. In your gray hymnal, Let It Be a Dance.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow with the wind. Let it be a dance. 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 Love is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
I think I'm just remembering how difficult that song is because of all the little repeats and things that I have forgotten exactly what they mean since I haven't really played an instrument since high school. So, but thank you. It's a great song anyway. The first steps towards getting somewhere is to decide that you are not going to stay where you are. A little capitalism for you this morning from J.P. Morgan. Another habit.
Soul of truth, eternal goodness, sojourn with us as we part. Fill our minds with high endeavor. Keep us just and pure in heart. Strengthen us for daily duty.
Go in peace. Go making peace.
Thank you.